What's up, crypto maniacs? This is Steve from Blockchain Bullz, and let's talk about Bitcoin and what's happening this week. Recently, Bitcoin's been celebrating all-time high after all-time high, and a lot of the sentiment has been, are we in a bubble? And this certainly is something that occurred a few years back. If we look at some of the all-time highs, those of us who were along for the main ride back when Bitcoin cracked 18,000 not that long ago in 2017, it sort of quickly fell on its face, and along with it did a lot of the cryptocurrency market. And it stayed that way for a couple of years. If you were lucky enough back in December of 2018 to still believe in Bitcoin and buy the super dip back at 3,200 and hold on to it until this year, you could have easily 10x'd your money. Many people did not, of course. But this year, there seems to be a lot of renewed interest in Bitcoin, some of that based upon financial instability with some of the fiat currencies out there. The U.S. Federal Reserve printing a lot of stimulus money, increasing the financial supply of U.S. dollar. But Bitcoin has seemed to hold pretty steady so far this year up until about the last week. We were peaking above $40,000 just about 2 weeks ago. So what's really happened since then? And let's kind of dive into it. So one of the main reasons that you hold on to Bitcoin, if you believe in it, is that you can't counterfeit it. And it's immutable, as they say, and it's also decentralized. So that means that no one central authority, whether that's a government or a person, there's no big tech billionaire running behind the scenes on this as an operation that could influence it or easily manipulate the market. You have that decentralized control and authority by, all the miners and all that's out there. But the fact that you can't counterfeit it, you can certainly rip people off and create, fake Bitcoins to unbeknownst people who are coming into crypto and sell them something that's completely bogus, but it is in fact not crypto, it's not in fact Bitcoin. The fear really comes from the report from BitMEX that they believed that there was an instance of a double spend. So a double spend would sort of defeat the purpose of the sanctity of cryptocurrency and the whole point of the blockchain, the miners validating the proof of work and everything. If that had in fact occurred, that would mean that somebody could, in theory, have taken a large amount of money, spent it twice, and in effect ripped people off. That removes a lot of the trust in this which should be trustless system that makes people believe that Bitcoin, along with other cryptocurrencies, are worthwhile and more trustworthy than their fiat counterparts. So because of that, this minor transaction that I believe was valued at an around $21 amount was alleged to have occurred on a blockchain, but that ended up not being the case, thankfully. Had it been the case, then yes, I think a lot of the concerns would be valid. So what we've seen is this Bitcoin, I don't want to call it tanking, and I don't think it's necessarily correcting unless there's more at play than just this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the FUD, if you will. But to see it drop by such a dramatic amount, to go from couple weeks ago above 40,000 to about 32,000 right now. If we check the Bitcoin price, we're climbing a little bit today. People are definitely considering this an opportunity to buy the dip. It's at about a 20% discount from where it was a couple weeks ago. Or if you're looking at it at the converse side of it, it's about 200% or more than it was a few months ago. So there's two sides to that Bitcoin, if you will. But luckily, if everyone's fear was that this double spend event was going to reduce the effectiveness and the trustworthiness of Bitcoin, they have since cleared that up. BitMEX themselves has analyzed, if we dive into the story, I'm picking it up here off Business Insider, but I'm sure you can see it some other places, that basically somebody had created a transaction, it in fact did not fund, so therefore they created a duplicate transaction that did complete. At first analysis with BitMEX, they thought it was a duplicate transaction, but that's not in fact what happened. And there also, during the double spend event, there was like a blockchain split. So there was something going on with the mining and validation there at that point as well. So, no fears there. But this does kind of make some, this first shaking. If you're new to crypto and you've been signing up since Bitcoin's been on the rise in the mid-teens, and you've been rallying like we all did in 2017, maybe some of you have, gotten cold feet. Maybe some of you are taking gains, realizing that, oh no, I've made my 20% gains, my 30% gains, my 100% gains, depending on when you got in. It's okay to take those from time to time if your purpose of investing in Bitcoin is to increase the dollar value of your fiat portfolios, moving it back into your checking and savings. But I think that some people saw this as an opportunity to, get out before there was another big collapse. Could Bitcoin correct all the way back to $10,000 or sub $10,000 amounts? And of course, with any asset or asset class, that's entirely possible. So nobody can really tell you one way or the other that it will or won't. But I'll tell you why I believe that it won't. And that's because what we're seeing nowadays, if you look at where a lot of the money is coming from, back in 2017, a lot of the money came from private Bitcoin investors, whether those were whales, people holding large amounts of coin, or whether those were small-time investors that would be among the lines of you or I. Neither one of us are sitting here presumably holding millions or tens of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, although some people certainly are. But we have people buying that amount today from financial institutions and from trade funds. So we're seeing a lot of that institutional investing coming into the market now that we didn't have in the market back in 2017 to the same degree. So there's a lot of people that are your Wall Street type, that might be your JP Morgan bankers, they might be your Oppenheimer Trust Fund, they might be Vanguard, those types of companies, not naming them per se, but that caliber of institutional investor that typically looks at futures, that looks at stock portfolios and things of that nature, foreign exchanges, is now making large purchases of Bitcoin for a long-term investment. So what you've got to believe is that they're not buying it from the prospect of trying to ride quick gains out of it. If they purchase it, put it in their portfolio, and in the matter of 3 months it goes up 20%, chances are that they're not going to cash out at that 20% gains. What they're in it for could be potentially that 3-year run, the 5-year run, where they have a belief that by purchasing large amounts of it for, to diversify their portfolio outside of their current asset classes, what they're going to be able to do is maybe hedge against some of the US dollar inflation if the Federal Reserve does in fact keep printing out trillions of dollars, minimizing the overall purchasing power of the mighty US dollar. And then they're also basically thinking that this is going to go up over the long term, and that by them purchasing this amount of Bitcoin and taking it out of the circulating supply, it doesn't come out of the circulating supply in the sense that the 18 million or so Bitcoins that are currently minted, because if we look at that amount that's currently out there, the circulating supply here is in fact all the Bitcoin that have been minted and mined up to this date. But if you say that, an organization comes in and purchases 50,000 or 100,000 Bitcoin and doesn't sell them or move them for 3 to 5 years, it takes it really out of the effective circulating supply. So what that means is that while they're holding on to it, like many of the long-term holders and investors, the other people, the day-to-day transactors, the short-term, the day traders, have a much smaller available coin supply to be able to buy and trade amongst themselves, which means that, of the 18.5 million Bitcoin that are roughly out there right now, if you assume that the $32,000 value of today is based on an 18 million number, let's say that only like 10 million of those are actually an effective supply. What that could do is mean that if the demand doesn't decrease, you will see an increase in the Bitcoin price because there will be roughly half as many out there available for purchase at any given time. So there will be a lot less selling orders, a lot less buying orders. In this case, a lot less selling orders on the market. And when you have more buying orders than you have selling orders, then you start to see the green candles on the trading index from the price increase as people are buying more and more of the lowest possible bid, and that lowest possible bid continues to increase on those exchanges. So I think if you've got faith in the effectiveness of cryptocurrency, and you believe that Bitcoin itself is, that long-term store of value, that it's something that is worth holding on to, and not only that, but probably potentially continuing to invest in. If you were to buy it today at 32,000 and some change, and just to see it correct back to the price where it was a couple weeks ago after this whole mess and misunderstanding is cleared up, you could effectively see a 20+% increase just to see it go back from today's value back to $40,000 USD. So that's really something that you could see short-term gains if that is your goal, or you could use this as an opportunity to buy the coins back at their pre-Christmas prices or thereabouts, where you'll be able to jump back into a market that you felt like you missed out on as of a couple weeks ago. You're no longer today buying at an all-time high, because as they say, you buy low and sell high. But when people are getting into something because of that fear of missing out, that FOMO, they tend to become the bag holders that buy high, and then they have to sell low once they've lost their belief in that. So stick with it. Stay tuned to Blockchain Bullz for more info on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.